clicking sounds.
From my mouth hole. So today I did some research.
Yeah?
And I prepared some information about the disappearance of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm ready. I have my pen and my paper and I am ready. I am very excited about this.
Are you taking notes?
Yeah, well, how am I going to keep track of all the information?
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. On the 1st of April 2014, two young Dutch women, Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon, disappeared while hiking on the Pianista Trail in Panama with their host family's dog. Their host became alarmed when their dog returned home that night without the two young women, and they contacted local authorities the following day.
Wait, the dog returned home without them. Like, how smart is this dog?
Smarter than our dogs.
Can you imagine if Peps or Bowls was left out in the wilderness? They would never
not find their way back.
never find their way back.
I mean, I get lost when I go to the park, so I would also never make it back.
This dog has got better navigation skills than you.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very smart dog.
Okay, so now that we've got that worked out.
Yeah, all right. Continue on.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
On the 3rd of April, local authorities began conducting aerial searches of the forest, and local residents started searching the surrounding area. 5 days later, on the 6th of April, their parents, along with police, dog units, and detectives, arrived in Panama from the Netherlands to conduct a full-scale search. Their parents offered a $30,000 reward for any information that could help lead them to their daughters.
Police from Netherlands actually flew in.
And dogs, apparently, from Netherlands.
And dogs as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they brought in everyone.
Yeah.
Their parents offered a $30,000 reward for any information that could help lead them to their daughters. I mean, it seems like a lot, but I think that, you know, if it were our children, we would want
you'd give
the
us
cavalry.
as much as you need to.
Yeah. 10 weeks later, a woman from the local Nagabe tribe found Froon's blue vinyl backpack by a riverbank near her village. She said that she was sure it hadn't been there the day before. The village was roughly 17 kilometers away from Boquete and 8 kilometers away from the summit of the La Pianista Trail, which would have been an 8-hour walk from the last known location and in an extremely remote area that would have been difficult to reach by foot. The backpack itself contained 2 pairs of sunglasses, $83 in cash, Froon's passport, a water bottle, Froon's camera, 2 bras, and the women's phones. Everything was neatly packed, dry, and in good condition.
Wow, both phones were in the backpack.
Both phones were in the backpack.
That's a bit odd, don't you think?
I think the whole thing's a bit strange.
If you were traveling on a hike, I wouldn't pack my phone in my backpack. I'd have it in my pocket.
Yeah. And because your phone or your camera, you would have it on you because...
You want to take a photo.
Exactly.
Oh, look at that over there. Oh, hang on a second, you know, and then have to get that. And then by that time, the animal has run away.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you've completely missed your opportunity.
Exactly.
And tourists generally walk around with their camera on them all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know when I was traveling around, I just...
What was that?
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway. So that's what was found in the backpack. The 2 phones showed that a few hours into their hike...
The audience.
Captive audience.
1 audience member.
Oh, the cutest. Okay, so the 2 phones show that a few hours into their hike, someone had dialed 112, which is the international emergency number, and 911, which is the emergency number in Panama, which is actually the same as in the US.
I thought that 112 was a satellite phone thing. I thought that your phone, if you didn't have reception, you dialed 112, it would still connect.
How would it connect?
I don't know.
Okay. You think about that and you get back to me.
Okay.
Okay. It was reported that between the 7th and 10th of April, there were 77 emergency call attempts made.
77?
77. So that's like roughly a week after they'd gone missing.
So 1 week after and these were just like sporadic 911 calls?
Yeah. And like there was no reception in the area, so none of them actually connected.
Was there any other calls in that period? Like, were there only 911 calls or were there any other calls in between?
That wasn't disclosed or described if there were any others, but I think that if we just go by what was in the reports, I believe it was only the emergency call attempts, because one of the things that was found a bit odd in the case as well was that there were no, like, if you, for example, if you were injured and you were in the wilderness and you didn't know if you were going to be rescued, you might like save voice memos or like drafts or something so that if somebody found you later and you were deceased, you might want to leave a message for your family or for your friends that people could look at. Like, I think that, I don't remember the story very well, but I think that there was like a hiker in Utah or somewhere, and she was injured and she wasn't sure that she was going to make it. And she actually recorded videos of herself speaking to her family in case she didn't survive.
What message would you leave if you had to?
I mean, I think I would definitely leave a message for you and for perhaps some balls and for
like, would it be like, make sure you wash the dishes, clean the toilet, make the bed?
Yeah, you can never get remarried again.
Clothes.
You better build a shrine to me.
You want a shrine?
Right in the bedroom. So no funny business can happen.
Wow. Not creepy at all.
Yeah, I haven't thought about this at all. After the 6th of April, it was also reported that multiple attempts were made to access the iPhone using the wrong PIN code. It never received the correct code again.
Just back to the 77 call attempts.
Yeah.
Like, what I'm thinking, if I'm lost in the wilderness, I'm maybe trying to attempt to call the authorities. But if I'm staying with someone, maybe...
You would try to call them, right?
Yeah, like, if like, all right, that's not working, maybe I'll try someone else.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. But, like, I don't know, just putting it out there that it might be, you know.
There were 90 flash photos found on Froon's camera from the 8th of April, taken between 1 and 4 a.m. Of the photos released, there were odd photos that showed the girls' belongings spread out on rocks, plastic bags, candy wrappers, mounds of dirt, and a mirror. Most worryingly, there was a picture of the back of Kremers' head with blood leaking from her temple. It was also discovered later that a single image had been deleted from their camera, which investigators were unable to recover. It was officially stated that the way in which the photo had been erased on the memory card would have been impossible to do without a computer. Eventually, Kremers' jean shorts were also discovered, zipped and neatly folded, a number of kilometers away from where Froon's backpack had been discovered. The Dutch police later estimated that the walking distance between the backpack and the shorts to be no less than 14 hours. 2 months later, a part of a pelvis and a boot with a foot were found. Soon after, a further 33 bones were discovered.
How many kilometers is that?
Between the backpack and the shorts?
Yeah.
So I've got this here. I don't know. It's hard to read. 2 months later, a part of a pelvis and a boot with a foot were found. Soon after, a further 33 bones were discovered scattered along the same riverbank. DNA testing confirmed that these body parts belonged to Froon and Kremers. Froon's bones appeared to have decomposed naturally, but Kremers' bones were bleached and completely bare. Carl Wild, the director of the Colorado Wilderness Medicine School and former cadaver lab supervisor, stated that after 2 months, the bones should not be bare, but still covered with significant amounts of flesh, unless, of course, there was human intervention. Okay. So there's a couple different theories about what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So the first theory was that, and this is from the director of the Institute of Legal Medicine, who ran forensics for the case. Mm-hmm. They theorized that there was a possibility that the bodies were cut up, dismembered, and then treated with lye. So lye, so I learned about lye from, look, because I really like those, like, TV shows.
Yeah.
But lye is typically composed of sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide, which are corrosive. Bells, you're getting in the way.
Bellsies. Bellsies. You can come join in. There you go, Pulse. She's joined the show.
Okay, so the director of the Institute of Legal Medicine theorized that there was a possibility that the bodies were cut up, dismembered, and then treated with lye. Lye is typically composed of sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide, which are corrosive. If the bodies had been covered in lye, it would have caused, like, the limbs and body parts to fall off.
They're suggesting that someone killed them, then treated them with lye. So this guy's got like a bag of lye with him in the wilderness.
I think what they're suggesting is that the girls may have been abducted and forced. They were forced somewhere else. And then possibly something went wrong. They were killed. And then in an effort to get rid of it or obscure any evidence, the bodies were then treated with lye. The second theory is that in 2017, when the case was revisited, it was theorized that there was actually an active serial killer in the region. Between 2009 and 2017, 24 other tourists had gone missing in the area, and they had turned up deceased. Leaked law enforcement reports suggested that a number of young women had been found dismembered and scattered in the area.
Oh, with like that same...
With the same kind of MO.
Oh.
And then after an 18-month investigation on these particular crimes, the police did conclude that they were homicides. So there's another theory that's floating around that these two girls were actually
killed by a
serial killer in the area. And then the third theory, which is essentially the official kind of explanation, and you know what a lot of people argue online, which is what you were saying to me before, is that it was just an accident. So they wandered off the track, they got lost, they may have accidentally fallen or injured themselves in the treacherous terrain. They were unable to attract help, and then their remains were either scavenged by animals or broken up by the current of the river. And the explanation for the photos, the flash photos that were taken, was that they were used to illuminate the area in the dark. You know, they were taken between 1 and 4 a.m. So you can imagine, like, two young girls lost in the wilderness. Like, you hear, like, when we go camping, you know, you hear, like, a branch is, like, broken or something. And you freak out. Like, it's the middle of the night. It's pitch black. You're unfamiliar with the area. You know, they could have just been illuminating the area or trying to scare off whatever was out there. Or they could have been trying to attract attention. So, like, maybe they heard people talking or whatever it was, and they were trying to attract attention. So I think my theory is that it was a combination of the two. So I think that the girls had an unfortunate accident. Maybe they did get lost. They were unfamiliar with the area. Maybe they had to go to the bathroom. Like, who knows what happened. And then there was some kind of accident. One or both became injured. And then I think in trying to attract attention for help, they attracted the wrong type of attention, and they were then victims of a crime.
I think I would agree with you on this one, actually. I think, I think they got into trouble. So, like, it sounds like they got into trouble early.
Yeah.
So only a couple of hours in, they got into trouble. They weren't too far away from home. where they left from, because the dog was able to make it back.
Yeah.
And then they attracted the wrong type of attention, and then something happened that kept them out there.
Yeah.
What I don't fully understand though is the emergency calls, but the fact that you can make emergency calls without knowing the PIN number to the phone is, you know, that's interesting in the fact that, you know, someone else could have made those calls. But then again, why would you try and make so many calls? Like, why would there be so many attempts to call emergency services?
Yeah. Sadly, we may never know what truly happened to Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. Their story is now lost in the depths of the Panamanian jungle.
Did they actually end up catching that guy or the person that killed the
I'm actually
other?
not sure. I don't know. Maybe it will be in a future episode.
Stay tuned.